Are you looking to do deals and master flipping houses? Welcome to the DoDeals Show with our host, Mr. Tim Mai. As a successful investor and mentor to many real estate investors, Tim's students consistently run 6- and 7-figure investing businesses. Each week, you'll hear from top real estate investors who share the best strategies, systems, and secrets that you can use to be more successful. Tim and his guests will pull back the curtain for you to learn their exact tactics, tricks, and tools that are working best right now in today's real estate market. Now, let's welcome Mr. Tim Mai.
Okay, we are live on Facebook. Well, hello everybody. This is Tim Mai. Welcome to another interview here. Today I have Matt Sneyd and Sean Steinmen on the line with us. Matt and Sean run a pretty sizable real estate investing business, 7 figures business. And they're going to share with us how they went from doing $20,000 wholesale profit to now over $200,000 wholesale profit. So, guys, how do we do that? I'm sure everybody wants to know.
Yeah, really the biggest thing, and Matt's going to get into the nitty gritty of it, but thinking bigger, taking those risks, and really having no fear, but being able to take those risks in a way that is super strategic and having the education behind it and working smarter, not harder.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And Sean's exactly right. I mean, when you think bigger, you can start to see things differently, right? They talk about mindset a lot in different courses and things that you go to. But the easiest way to start thinking bigger and start seeing things in a different way, to see bigger opportunities that maybe scare you a little bit, is to the easiest.
You guys froze there for a little bit.
To see the zoning and better use.
Okay.
So that's what we started doing, and it really changed our bit.
Matt, repeat that because you froze out right before you said that. So
the best way to easily do that is to look for the higher and better use of a property. Higher and better use, we've all heard that term, but none of us realize the power of it. I didn't realize the power of it. And the easiest way to do that, or the way to do that, is to research the zoning. Most people, whether you're a listing agent, investor, leads come in, a listing comes in, a wholesale property comes in, and you just take that property for as it is, you do an ARV on it, and then you blast it out or try and resell it or fix it and flip it, right?
Right.
Well, if you just look at the zoning, it may be zoned for something that's a higher and better use, that all of a sudden you can leverage that property for a much, much bigger return with very little work, sometimes less work than you would have normally.
Or even look at the zoning of nearby properties as well. So it's kind of in the midst, if you're an island per se, and then try to figure out exactly what you can do to bring that to that highest and best use, because the likelihood of being able to get it through all the processes that are needed in that are going to be pretty high if you're kind of an island, lost in a mix of higher and better use zoning.
Gotcha. Okay, now does this only work in urban, suburban, rural area, or does this work in cities as well?
It works everywhere, but you do need to identify the path of progress. And so, for instance, we have an area in Salt Lake here. We're based out of Salt Lake City. There's an area called Harriman, which 10 years ago was all farmland. So when you say, okay, that's a rural area and we have the big city, we've done deals all over, right? And so those deals and opportunities are out there because at the point of time when zoning changes, a city master plan gets updated, they may do a zoning map overlay change that affects many, many properties because they say, we want to become a big city now, not a farm city.
Gotcha.
All of a sudden that's available to you to build houses where there was only agriculture before.
Mm-hmm.
I see. All right, great.
Yeah, and you're also going to be finding that, just to kind of add to what Matt, even in areas where there's less desirability at this time because there may be, and for example, we have a place near what Matt was talking. It's called Bluffdale. There's a prison there currently, but we're growing so much as a city, they're actually relocating the prison. So we actually have some communities right around the prison currently that are just going to blow up, and the return on equity is just going to be killing it here in the next 2 to 5 years.
Right. Funny you mentioned that because the area that I live in, that's the same thing happened. And that happened 15, 20 years ago probably. But the signs that the warning sign about not picking up, hitchhikers because of the prison area is still there, even though the prison's no longer there.
Yeah, exactly.
That's funny. All right. Okay, Facebook. Well, we're gonna continue with the rest of our interview here, and so when we do post this live, keep an eye out for that. If you like this interview so far, make sure you leave a comment, share this, and then when we post it live, we'll let you know so you can see the rest of the interview of how they went from wholesaling normal houses into new development, into new constructions, and now wholesaling a whole development. And so I'm really excited for the rest of this interview, and so make sure y'all keep an eye out for it. So we'll see you for now.
Yeah, that way we make it easy on the editor.
All right, sounds good. So, all right, guys, so take us on your journey. So you're very successful, wholesalers out there doing tons of deals in Utah. How did you, I guess maybe even go back a little bit, how did you get started in real estate investing, and what made you, have that switch over to new construction, new development?
Yeah. One of the biggest things that we realize is that making money in real estate isn't about a certain principle or strategy. It's a lot about timing, the market economics that are happening, and then picking the right strategy that is the most effective for that time. So it's fairly common for us to switch real estate tactics and strategies every 2 years or so, depending on what the market is giving and taking. We're a very big proponent of, we're not sheep. We don't follow the people that are doing the most common things. And we like to swim downstream, not upstream. We don't like to fight the current. If all of a sudden one of our business models, we feel like we're getting a ton of pushback, and we're fighting uphill for every battle and fighting for deals and competing with other people, we will say, okay, let's take a step back and look at the market economics and see if we need to switch our strategy. So we started 10 years ago when I was 19 in wholesaling. And it was really good back then. And then very soon after that, the market started to get really bagged. So we got into distressed sales, which is foreclosures, pre-foreclosures, that type of stuff, REOs. And then when the market started to shift again, we got into rehabbing and wholesaling as well. And then as of recently, as the market shifts again, it gets tighter when it gets hot like this. We've actually moved into construction and new construction and development. And those are all the reasons that we picked those changes were because of the market economics that we're looking at. So
that's amazing to hear, like how quickly you guys shift. I think that a lot of investors don't make the shift that fast.
It's hard. I mean, the more educated investors out there, they preach about making systems and being a systemized business so you can run like a machine and like a real business. And when you shift that quickly, we've had it where we just felt like we were barely starting to get traction on our system and getting it refined and well. And then we're like, sorry, we got to shut this down, and it's a really hard bullet to bite, but it's just what it takes sometimes.
Yeah, and we're a lean boat, so it's very easy for us to turn. And the nice thing about that is we're able to turn, and it's going to be much more profitable for us because then we're able to fail quicker, learn from our mistakes, and then be able to basically take those failures and turn it into a success very, very quickly.
Right. That's awesome. I love that. You're using your income goal sort of as your guiding light, not so much as a specific real estate strategy, because I think that a lot of investors get stuck on the specific strategy, and then when that strategy doesn't work anymore, they're like, well, this market doesn't work anymore, right? Yeah. But you're like, who cares about the strategy? Here's my income goal. What strategy is gonna get me there, quicker, faster, easier?
Yeah.
Right? So,
and of course we have income goals, that we all have to. That's a key part of being in business is making goals. But secondary to the income, or income is secondary to the fact of we want to have fun and be creative. And sometimes when you're not doing good deals and not making money, it's not fun. And also, right? I'm sure we've all felt that before. We felt it. It's not fun to lose money.
You mean you don't do this just for the houses? You're just like in love with the houses itself?
Yeah. We've done it for that, not by choice. But the primary goal is to have fun and be creative and help people out. And that and with our ADD that we typically have, a lot of the people on our team, we get bored of certain models after a while too. So it's really conducive to our personality type that we do a model for a while, we do really well at it, and then we kind of get burnt out on it. And luckily, the timing of when we get burnt out and the market shifting seems to match up somewhat okay. It's not always perfect, but as soon as we burn out or we're not as passionate, that does reflect on our income. There's guys in our market that are doing 100 wholesales a year. We weren't doing that volume of wholesales because we weren't as passionate on the wholesale side of it. So the passion really leads to that discovery of new business models and thinking outside the box.
I love that. I love following your passion, following what inspires you, right? And not like try to force a certain outcome, right? So yeah.
And it also allows for the diversification as well. We still maintain our core competency within our business model, but what's really neat about that is we're able to, like I said, find those passions and be able to just kind of run with it because our market is ever changing and every market out there is constantly changing.
Right. All right. So let's talk about that change and how you transition into that. So, because market change is going to happen to all of us. So what, been through these changes that you guys been through, what advice do you have for others to navigate through that? Like what's the first step, or what's like some of the things that they really need to look at and consider?
Go ahead. I would say you need to be looking for the key indicators. There's multiple reports right now that are talking about flips are down in America nationwide right now.
Yep.
That should be a very big indicator as far as, okay, we've got a very low supply that's happening right now. So what does that mean? That means developers are actually thinking, and they're thinking that we need to now raise that supply. But everybody is so extremely hesitant because they don't want to get into some of the, the past and oversupply basically. So really look at those key indicators and see, okay, so if supply is down, we don't want to be just completely spinning our tires because supply is down and see much skinnier deals because people are asking premiums on these. We need to now be looking at what's going to be the best way for us to now take what the market is doing and apply the same techniques that we're doing in either wholesale or flipping now and bring it into a new level as far as what the market's going to be able to take. So a lot of that has to do with looking at what the market indicators are going to be and be able to turn quickly on those market indicators and be able to get creative as far as what that is going to be doing for you and your business model.
Yeah, and a couple of examples of those indicators, because you got to look at two things. There's local and national indicators, right? On a local level, everybody in the business can look at your average days on market, the supply of homes in the area, the average or median sale price of if it's going up or going down and at what pace. Those are things that on a local level we're looking at every single week or month, definitely every quarter at a minimum, and getting a feel for that to see where we should be moving. A good example, what Sean was talking about as far as inventory. Inventory was really, really tight here. It was harder to find deals. We were competing and running into wholesalers at every property we went to. So we go, okay, if there's no inventory, maybe we should create it. And that's why we got into new construction. And we totally shifted, and all of a sudden, the same mailers we were sending out for wholesale, we started identifying land opportunities, houses on big lots with better zoning, do subdivision, PUDs, and build houses on them. And so we got 15 of our own houses under construction, and Sean's partnered with a builder that's got 40 homes under construction. And that's a big portion or a good example of using a market indicator and really your feel. And once you get good at this and start being self-aware, you can get a good feel for the market of what it needs.
Right. So go ahead, Sean, you about
this. Yeah, I was going to mention, especially with these types of things, because these projects are larger, you sometimes have to shift in the midst of a project as well. You have to reevaluate what the market is now going to be showing you. So, for example, if you're going through a project and it takes 12 months to get this project even going, you need to be flexible, and that's going to be one of the biggest things that a lot of the listeners right now need to know. You can't be set in your ways, and you need to make sure that you're listening to the market as much as you can throughout that whole process.
Multiple exit strategies for sure.
Right. That's great. Now, knowing that is one thing. having the balls, the guts to do that, that's a completely different story. So speaking to that.
Yeah, I can touch on that. So really the biggest thing is going into every deal, like Matt had just said, with multiple exit strategies. So Matt and I, we typically go into every deal that we either look at, underwrite, go into the acquisition side of it, and we go into it saying, okay, we are now going to be building this. And when we're going through that process, what ends up happening is we see that there's 3 other exit strategies, which is going to be the path of least resistance and the most immediate profit for us, which will make sense. And you have to know a lot of the competitors in that space as well. And you also have to respect those competitors and basically say, hey, you know what? These guys have been in the market for 30 years. They're going to be able to pay this specific premium for it. So we might as well go through all the due diligence that they would and be able to then supply them with everything that they would have needed, which is going to be a value add for them. So we like going into every deal saying, okay, we're going to be building this out. In some cases, some of the deals are, okay, we know that this is going to be a flip, but we still like to have that mindset that we're going to be doing this because then it's going to be translated over to that end user much better because you are the expert in that field and they are the expert because these are much more intellectual buyers.
Yeah, and I would say the other thing to add from that is a mindset. So the mindset is a huge component. Sean and I actually didn't work too closely together up until about a year and a little bit ago. But we went to Tony Robbins' Unleash the Power Within together. We went through that whole entire thing and we're giving notes to each other back and forth every single night after we got out at 2 a.m. or whatever, And there was 2 things in my life that had a major mindset shift that made it way less scary for me to move from the average investor where I had been for almost 10 years up to now a commercial real estate developer or an apartment buyer or, also we do apartment. We represent people for apartment buy and sell. That's a huge income level shift and a huge mindset shift. So one was going through that self-awareness exercise at Tony Robbins and having that feedback from a business associate to move up and think bigger. The other was a trip that I went on with another local investor. He's a couple years older than me. He took us down to Vegas for a weekend just as a guy's weekend for fun. But that 2-day trip, he took us on his jet and he was with his business partner and a couple other guys. And we started talking about all the deals that they were doing, right? And he's only a couple years older than me. He's in the same market, just a little bit further south. And it just clicked for me. I'm like, if this guy's doing this, I can too. And it was just a mindset shift. And that's what can take that level of scare the crap out of you away, and it really is just a mindset thing. And all of a sudden just started working on bigger deals. It was like, unless it's 6 figures, we don't look at it.
Exactly.
Dude, that's awesome. So do you recommend, so for example, a wholesaler out there right now looking at these properties, checking the zoning, see if there's a better use. Now they see a better use for it. Do you recommend them to go through the entire process of acquiring that as if they were going to develop it themselves and then wholesale it, or just find a developer and try to wholesale it and maybe work out a deal to learn the process and on the way? So
the first thing that you need to do is you need to find the buyer pool. So whatever the market's going to be looking like. So currently in our specific market, multifamily is going to be a huge demand. Multifamily, new construction, multifamily zoning. And in certain markets, industrial may be a very huge demand. In some markets, just commercial office space may be a huge demand. So really distinguishing what the buyer pool is going to be looking at and what they're going to be looking for as well. So then you're able to then find and distinguish those properties in what they need to be. And then you need to then educate yourself. And that's something that, of course, if you wanted to call and reach out, Matt and I would definitely be able to help out with that. We're doing this nationwide currently. Nice. But education is going to be the biggest key to this because you don't want to trip, because if you trip, you're going to basically dissolve that whole buyer pool and you're not going to be showing yourself as an intellectual within this space. So you want to make sure that you're going to be presenting yourself appropriately because it's definitely a smaller market within each sub-market out there.
Yeah, gotcha. I mean, I think to sum it up, I think the easy way to look at it is just like in residential. When you first get into residential wholesaling, they always tell you to become a wholesaler first, right? Low overhead, not a lot of capital needed. You can kind of make some mistakes and still make the deal to come together.
Right.
Same rules apply. You can get a very good education by finding these deals, sourcing them, going through packaging up the deal by doing the primary due diligence to make sure it really is a deal, and then just wholesale it to another developer that's experienced, and then watch that guy develop it. Follow up, see what he does, leave some meat on the bone for them, and you can still make a pretty penny, but not have near as much risk as some of these bigger guys that can afford to take the risk.
Right. So how do you find these guys? How do you find, because I know the developers are even before the builders, right? Because a lot of builders are not developers. So how do you find the developers?
So I guess really we are the developers, I guess you could say. Being a wholesaler in this industry, there's this side of the business, commercial and development, is all of the same principles, bigger numbers and different terms, okay? So a wholesaler, I would say, is a developer or what they call entitlements, and you do entitlements. You're providing actually a lot of value by taking it from nothing and doing some research and having really, really good knowledge and detailed notes and facts about the property of what can be done with it, and then selling it to a builder. A lot of the times we're selling it to the actual builder. I think developer is a little bit of a loose term. We consider ourselves developers, but I call it glorified wholesaling. That equals a developer. But to find a builder or a developer, you pretty much it's networking, really. It's a whole different network. Like when we used to go to a RIA, now we attend commercial symposiums and and part of like CCIM and business development groups and business networking groups. So we're dealing with a much higher level person and mindset of person, but it's the same type of thing. We used to go network at RIAs, find cash buyers and sell to them. Now we're networking at these other type of events with a whole different group of network and selling to these guys by networking. And I would say 90% of our buyers come from meeting them and getting interconnected through those business groups that we attend.
I was with the developer and builder before I was able to partner up with Matt and the Move Group. So that of course had some benefit there. But one of the biggest things is, I'm going to go back to that previous statement, is you need to know exactly what the growth is in your community. I think if you look at what the growth is, then you can actually distinguish who the businesses that are growing. And if you have a business that's growing, you then have a demographic that you need to be focusing on, and then you have kind of a target market and a target networking group that you need to be working with. Like I said, our biggest demand right now is that multifamily, just because we're so limited. However, that's going to shift in the next 14 months, I would imagine, and it's going to be to the next greater, bigger thing. So you need to make sure that you're flexible on that and find those groups that are really pushing out the most employment opportunities in your city, and then also the most kind of spread building in your community as well. And you can just do that by just driving down the street and seeing who's building.
Wow.
Yeah. The takeaway, I would say some tangible takeaways. If you don't have any connections and you're one of those guys that is a little bit introverted, one, find someone who's extroverted and can actually network. But I think it's builderslist.com. They have a list of every home builder in the state. And they typically track their numbers, their volume, how many houses they build. You can purchase that list from them. It's not cheap, but it can be very valuable. And then
join the NAHB of your local market, which is the National Association of Home Builders.
Yep.
And that is, of course, a national organization that you can join in on, and you can rub shoulders with some of the builders and developers out there.
And then the other way is we just do reverse research on the biggest projects that we see around town. So if you like, a lot of cities are huge growth right now, go and drive by and research who owns them, who the developer is, and just start to call those guys up and just say, I'm finding deals and I want to know what you're interested in. They'll say multifamily or office or this or that. And that's how you build your buyers list. Just like in wholesaling, you have to have a buyers list first, but it's very much the same principles of doing that reverse research to kind of trail back. There's a project over there being built. Who built it and what are they looking for? And then lastly, there's a couple organizations. ULI is, I can't even remember what it stands for, but ULI is a national commercial group And then CCIM is the commercial network of brokers and agents in your area that work that side of the industry. Just start getting in those groups and you'll find them.
That's awesome.
I'm going to add one last thing to that one as well. Just because a lot of people out there, we talked about passion, we talked about having fun with what we're doing. We love our city, so that's what's so cool about what we're able to do, is find those places. Like I had mentioned earlier, is we have a prison site that is going to be relocating. And it's in one of the most stellar areas. It's about 20 minutes from some of the local ski resorts here. So we're passionate about the area. We're passionate about the community and the change in that community. So distinguish those sites where you see and you're creative in your mindset of what that community could look like. And then you just need to talk to the right people within the government, the municipalities, and see what the opportunities could be to make a difference in that specific area.
Right, that's awesome. So what about attending the city or the county's like planning development stuff? Would that be helpful? What kind of information can you get out of going to those meetings?
That is hugely beneficial. It's a must-do, a must-have within the industry. I always, before I got into this side of the business, I always underestimated the value of attending those meetings, or at least reading the minutes or watching the videos. A lot of them now post the videos online, post the minutes online. It's all public record. And so you don't have to necessarily attend, because it's like, it's 5 o'clock on a Thursday. Like, I don't want to go to that. I got my kid's soccer game or, an event or networking thing to go to, whatever it may be. Sean looks at me because I don't have kids, but that's what a lot of people have, right? But I would say that's a huge component, because that will help you get a vision and feel for what your city wants built. So what we always say, like I said before, we don't swim upstream, we go with the flow. Mm-hmm. A lot of developers come in and they've got a big head and they want to build what they want to build with their vision, and this is their project. Do not do that. It's a really good way to piss the city off really quick. The first thing we do when we walk into a city meeting, about whether it's a design review meeting or a community council meeting, is we ask them what they'd like to see. And they tell us what they want to see, and then we design around that. And try and make as much of that possible within respect that it has to still pencil out. So the easiest way to figure out the vision of what the city wants, so that you can start to envision it and meld that and mold that together with your own vision. Because if you live in your area, you drive by an area and go, I really wish there was a Whole Foods in this area. We really need that. Or there is not enough housing for how much commercial that we have. Whatever it is, there's going to be a gap. Nothing's always perfect. But looking at the master plan, okay, every single city, every single county has a master plan. Some of them have a 10, 20, or 30-year master plan. Read through the master plan. They've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars and thousands of hours putting this master plan together, and that's why they're so strict with it, because they put a lot of time and effort in to make that happen. And so if you go in with something against the master plan, then you're really kind of insulting them. So in conjunction with looking up the master plan and looking up with the zoning map, those two things together, because the zoning map was made to coincide with the master plan. When you can really get a bird's eye, 20-year vision of your city, you all of a sudden start looking at your city a different way and start seeing opportunities that you never would have saw before.
That's an incredible good tip. I'm going to go do that. I've never done that before.
See, I would tell you most investors haven't done that.
Yeah, I'm going to go do that. That's an amazing good tip. Yeah. And so let's talk about the risk and the reward. Obviously, development has its risk, right? And, and however, the reward seems to be incredible. So how do you best mitigate that? So speak into how much risk is involved and how do you best mitigate that?
You want to take that?
Yeah. So risk factors are interesting, and every deal is going to look different. So really what it comes down to is you do need to be knowledgeable about the space. So read up on it, do as much research as you can, and then really run a lot of just scenarios that are just hypothetical, built within what the current zoning is, built within current sites, and then conceptualize those first. So if you conceptualize it, if you can actually put a little bit of creativity into it, and then see if you could now bring that to fruition, either on the one that you're conceptualizing on or on an actual, new project that you're working on. Those are going to be some of the biggest factors that you want to be looking at. So really what that comes down to is education is going to be the first piece. So with Matt, he spent, 26 hours a day for 3 months. I mean, he was able to find 2 extra hours in a day just to educate himself on this. I was able to cut my teeth with the developer for a couple years and basically learn from it. And then I'm still learning on a daily basis here. So with that, really going into it, education. And that can look in so many different ways. That could just be talking with the developers. That could just be, rubbing shoulders with these developers. The next thing is fail quickly. So hopefully you're not putting a ton of money on the line to fail, and try to fail in the background first. So run 5 different scenarios of how this can fail. So that's why I had talked earlier about I want to go into every project as saying, I am going to do the full build out of this. So what's really cool about that is I now know I'm going to be able to do this and make it so that I could do the full build out on this. And then the next thing is I also know I have 3 other exit strategies over here to the right as well. So those exit strategies could be the path of least resistance. So what that really means is as you're going through the process, and we could explain this and spend the next 10 hours about it, but as you're going through the process, make sure that you're covering all of your timelines, you're going through the process diligently, you're jumping on things quickly, and make sure that once you see a possible hurdle that you're going to be jumping over, alleviate that in the background and fail hypothetically before you fail and lose $100,000 in earnest money.
Yeah.
So those are some of the biggest factors that you need to be looking at. Fail, quick. And I think that's going to be one of the biggest factors just to be able to be successful.
Yeah, and the other angle I'm going to look at that from is from a deal structure and contractual standpoint. There's a right and a wrong way to do this. We learned the hard way of how to do it wrong. So I think a real life example is the first couple development deals we did. We went into it, partnered with another builder that had some experience because we were not very confident about this side of the business yet. And what I would say to all of you out there is that if you get a deal like this and you don't know what you're doing, find somebody who does, because you're going to learn much quicker with much less risk by partnering with somebody that has experience. And like Sean says, we're doing this all around the country. So if you don't have anybody that you know in your area, reach out to us, because we're more than willing to do this in all areas, because a lot of the same principles apply as long as there's feet on the ground. But we went into a deal and we went hard on our money. We hadn't got a rezone done. Actually, we didn't even need to do a rezone. We actually just had to do a subdivision on one and a PUD on the other. These should have been paper administrative processes that only took 2 to 3 months in a normal scenario. Well, the county was very backed up. They had some people quit and get fired, and it ended up taking almost 2 years.
Wow.
We had 2 years where we actually not only had money hard, we owned the property, and we were paying interest on the property. That cuts into our bottom line very much. Luckily, these were really big deals, and there's still some meat left on the bone. But what we learned from that is we're never going to go into a deal that typically we won't ever go hard on a deal or close on a deal if it needs a rezone. We will wait and structure the contract to be some earnest money, maybe going hard depending on the risk, but an extended close and extended due diligence, all dependent upon the rezone. But typically, we're only finding properties that are zoned the way that they that what we want them to do, right? They're already zoned for the higher and better use. They're being underutilized. Right. Then we structure the contract with a long due diligence. So typically, you're going to be looking at a 60 to 120 days of due diligence time frame, which is very common in these deals, so that you can have and allow yourself time to do all the research, do the due diligence, and get the city approvals, or even if it's not approvals, but you need to work through the city with all of the details, because one detail could pop up on one of those meetings that kills the deal. So you don't want to have too much on the line for it. But big risk, big reward. And as you go through each step of the way, you reassess how much risk is left on the table and how much money you want to go hard and how good the deal is. And so that's how you protect yourself from getting into these, 6 and 7 figure deals without losing hundreds of thousands of dollars. Because if you close on something and in the 11th hour, the city says, oh no, we forgot to tell you that you actually have to have a 30-foot setback here, and because of this overlay and a UDOT setback, you have to push your property line back another 20 feet. And that kills 3 units off your project, and therefore you're no longer profitable. You never want that to happen. So structuring your contract and negotiating with the seller to tell them what you're going to do. And most of you say, well, I could never get a seller to go on a contract for 60, 90, 120 days. You can if you pay them more. And so it's always price and terms, right? You probably heard that in trainings and stuff like that and courses. Well, if you can get them a little bit better price, they'll probably give you better terms.
Right. So, as you both mentioned, you are looking to do this nationwide. So what kind of properties are you looking for? What kind of resources are you looking for? I'm sure by now the listeners want to somehow get involved with you guys, do some deals, maybe invest with you, buy some properties from you. Speak into that. Yeah.
So what our need is, there's a certain window of time that we're talking about where this business model works. We're talking between 1 and 3 years for what we can see in the foreseeable future. It's really hard to predict, but that's what we're estimating. So we're looking to grow quickly for a short amount of time. And so what that means is partnering and having JV partners around the country where they're finding these opportunities in their local areas. They have no idea what they're doing, need an expert to come in and coach them through it, one, so they can learn and they can make more money on the deal. If they were going to wholesale it and make 20 grand as a single family home, but they bring it to us and they can make 200 grand or $1 million, which is, you say that's not possible. It's possible. I didn't think it was possible until I saw it and did it.
Wow.
But now that's all we look at. So we're looking someone with some good base knowledge, feet on the ground, that can also connect with and network with some of the people that we need in the local areas. Mm-hmm. Most everything else we can pull all the information off, do all the research, do all the site plan layout, everything like that. We can do virtually. So we're really looking for local partners to provide us with deals that they don't know how to do and that they want to learn from and make a little bit extra cash.
That's awesome.
On that, we also have opportunities here in Salt Lake as well, where we actually have properties that have gone vertical that we've been able to apply a lot of those concepts, and you can see a really good return on equity within those as well. So there's kind of two cases. If you want something that's more passive or something that's more active, with Matt's scenario, that's going to be more of the active scenario in your specific market. We also have some opportunities that we've gone vertical. We've got some different investment strategies here in Salt Lake that we'd be able to accommodate to.
That's awesome. Okay, so where you want to send them? How do they reach out to you guys?
Yeah, so our website is the Move Group, and Move is spelled with a U. So that's TheMuvegroup.com. And both of our emails are just Matt at the Move Group and Sean at themovegroup.com.
So Sean spelled the right way, SEAN.
Yeah. So check out our website. We don't post a ton of our development on our website just because it takes so long, and that's kind of like our big money maker that we do in the background, but we do a lot. We have about 7 different business models, primarily on the flipping, wholesaling, and new construction is what we show on the front end of our site. Mm-hmm. But all of our contact information is on the site. You can reach me on my cell number too if you'd like, 801-243-7006, and reach out. Again, whether you want to do this development or entitlement in your city, or if you just want to participate in the profits by being a passive investor, by either buying one of these properties or a pool of properties, or providing private money, those are all opportunities that we can provide.
That's awesome. Yeah, I would love to do something like just myself doing something with you guys here in Houston. I have a pretty big network here in Houston, and so I'm sure I can get tons of bird dogs, and wholesalers out there scouting out deals for us, right?
Yeah, we need to have an offline conversation after this now that we've enlightened you, huh?
Yeah, no, I mean, this has been an incredible, interview, and I love it. I mean, I've learned a ton from this interview. Just like you said, it's like exposing our mind out to things that we didn't know before, didn't think was possible, right?
Yeah.
Until someone's, until we meet someone, it's like, wow, that's very possible. So that's really, I mean, thank you so much, guys, for your generosity, for being open to share with everyone, about your journey and what you've learned, and how to get into development. And this is like wholesaling on steroids, right?
Exactly.
So that's definitely super incredible. So grateful. I'm super grateful for you guys. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah.
Yep. Awesome. All right, everybody. Go check out Matt and Sean, themovegroup.com, and contact them. If you have deals in your areas, check the zoning, let them know, get in touch with them, invest with them, whether you want to do it passively, actively, they have it available for you. So take advantage of that. With that, thank you so much for listening, watching this interview. We'll see you on the next interview. Everybody.
And that's our show for today. If you have any questions or would like to get further training from Tim Mai, please visit our website at www.dodeals.com/Tim.